a circle full of dogs. We put in work. Baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs.
Hey everybody, we're live. Myself, Chris Rosa, Giants Carb Crush, and the truth, Michael Stewart. Everybody, hopefully we get a lot of people coming in the room. Michael, first off, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, and like every other Giant fan, we're licking our wounds. That was a winnable game.
Sure was, man. It hurts. It hurts. And I remember us talking. We won't go over it again. It's history now, but we talked about coming down to a field goal and came down to 7 field goals, matter of fact, right?
and I think that's the first time that a team's all their points from 7 field goals and they won the game.
Yeah, after 3 touchdowns. Yeah, man. So we got to turn the page, and we got to, this is a must win. So, hey, Bill Hartnett, you are everywhere, every pod. I know you always join us twice a week, so we can't thank you enough, Bill. You're awesome. You are a super fan, man. So thank you. Appreciate the support. Big Blue all the way. Michael, going into this game, I mean, third game, it's a must win. We've been down this road so many times. 10 out of the last 12 years, the Giants have started 0-2. This year is no different, minus a couple seasons here and there. But Michael, the Giants need to steal this game. There's no ifs, ands about it. If not, they could be staring at 0-4, 0-5. So all hands on deck, man. They got to squeak a win out. You agree?
Yeah, we said the same thing last week. I mean, that last week hurt big time. And listen, it's the NFL. You gotta short memory. You gotta let it go, and you gotta move on to the next game. And this is a game. I'm sure Giant fans are gonna be saying, "What are you doing?" It's a game they can win, believe it or not. And we'll talk about that. But like you said, Chris, all hands on deck. This is not only are you fighting for the season, there are players and coaches fighting for their jobs next year.
Oh man, totally. And this is just 0-2 was kind of a must, to keep the pressure down. But the temperature's definitely been raised. Bill, this is funny, Bill. Only time in regulation. Vikings did it once, but that was with overtime. And a matter of fact, I think you're alluding to 2022 when the Giants ended the season against the Vikings before they played them in the playoff game. And wouldn't you know it, talking about injuries, Greg Joseph, now the kicker of the Giants, he was the kicker for the Vikings to win that game. I think that was the game you're alluding to, Bill. But isn't that? Yeah, it was a 61-yard field goal. Hey, Jay Ferries, thanks for jumping in. People will laugh at this, but I think we win by 2 scores. Well, I will tell you, Jay, listening to Tony Grossi, who covers the Browns for the Cleveland, it's either the Cleveland Gazette or Cleveland Tribune. They seem like not that they're cocky, but they're counting this as a win already. In fact, so much so that they don't even want to play Njoku and some of the injured guys coming off of IR. So there could be a little bit of overconfidence by the Browns, but we'll see. Once again, right, Michael, nothing surprises you with this team. We've been surprised on the positive end. We've also been surprised on the negative side. Right, Mike?
Yeah, you never know which Giant team you're going to get. Are we going to see a Giant team from week 1 or a Giant team from week 2? We don't know what Giant team we're going to see.
Yeah, for sure. Giants Chronicles podcast. Thanks for jumping in. We always appreciate you stopping in, especially tonight for the preview show. So let's get with it, Michael. Well, before we get to some breakdown with the Giants and the Browns, let's go over some injuries. A lot of things came out today. So, I'll hit you with some Browns. Excuse me. We'll go to some Giant injuries. Let me bring this up. There were a couple practice report today with the injuries. So Nick McLeod's battling a knee, did not practice. Darius Musso, the linebacker, as we know, is filled in for McFadden. He was limited with the knee. Isaiah Simmons, personal, not injury related. So what that was, he was limited. I guess he did practice for a little bit and then he didn't. but that was personal reasons, whatever that is. And Kayvon Thibodeau still battling a shoulder. He was also limited. And as all of us know by now, Graham Gano put on the injured reserve, which I think is the 4-week injured reserve with the hamstring. So Greg Joseph was signed last week, and he was with Minnesota. He was with Detroit in training camp off the practice squad. So they had add him to the 53. He was with the Vikings for a few years. In fact, the 61-yard field goal a couple years ago. So decent kicker. I could bring up some stats if everybody wants to. If everybody wants to know about Greg Joseph, what he looked like last year, because this is once again one of these games where it could come down to a field goal at the end. So in 2023, Greg Joseph was 80%, 24 for 30. He had a long of 54, 36 of 38 on extra points, and once again kicked a 61-yard field goal against the Giants. You'll remember end of regulation in 2022 in that season, or that might have been overtime. Was that overtime, Mike? That I think that's what Bill was alluding to. Remember in 2022 at the end of the season, that was overtime, right?
Boy, I'll tell you, when you get older, you don't have that long-term memory.
I think that's what Bill, and he might be right. So anyway, 61-yard field goal. Ironically, Gano did that with the Panthers, and then we took him. The Giants took him on board. So same thing with Greg Joseph. So. All right, so those are some of the Giants' injuries that we're looking at. Not bad though, not earth-shattering with injuries. Looks like all hands on deck. Let's move over to the Browns. Let me go to my notes here. So the Browns, interesting enough, they were playing without Njoku last week with a high ankle. Looks like he's gonna be out again this week. So that's a big.
Oh, that's big. He's their leading tackler.
Yeah, receiver. He's the tight end.
Oh! I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the other guy.
Garrett?
Koromua.
Koromua. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, I got them mixed up. My bad.
Their names. The names for sure. And interesting enough, the right tackle Conklin had knee surgery last year, the end of the season. He's a very good right tackle, and Jedrick Wills, the left tackle, also had surgery the end of last year. Neither one have played yet, so they practiced today limited. I'm not sure if they're going to play Sunday, but even if they do, they're going to be awfully rusty. They might be on a pitch count. So definitely, once again, another advantage that the Giants should take. You would think they would take advantage of with Burns.
That's what we thought last
Thibodeau,
week,
right?
They had zero sacks, both of them. Tibbs and Burns, 0 sacks.
Yeah. So, missing both bookends possibly, that's a big loss if that happens again this week. Nick Chubb is still on the PUP list. Big loss there. They have that running back forward. I think he rushed for like 62 yards last week. They didn't it was, running back by committee. So Chubb is definitely going to be out. Denzel Ward battling a shoulder. He only had about 11 snaps against the Jaguars, so he could be limited. So there's a lot of interesting injury side notes for the Browns leading up to this game, which, we would think could go into the Giants' favor.
Yeah, I will say this, Chris. I know Chubb's a big loss for them. He's a quality running back. But they have a kid there, Jerome Brown, who actually has done a good job. He's averaging 5.7 yards a carry on 19 carries, 108 yards. So when he's called on, he's done a good job. So, I don't know how he'll do on Sunday. Knowing the Giants, they'll make him look like Jim Brown,
Right.
But, we both were on that boat last week with Robinson, just knew he was going to have a good game. He just does that against his rivals.
He's a tough runner, and I think you alluded to that as well. Yep.
That guy is one of the toughest runners in the league.
Yeah, really for sure. And, playing for Washington, maybe now a little different since they have new front office and new coaching staff. But he's been under the radar because Washington hasn't been any good. But I think we're going to hear about him more as Washington gets better.
Yep.
About Brian Robinson. Hey, Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. Always great to see you pop in, man. Oh, yeah. You're always, popping into one of our shows. We always appreciate it. And some interesting numbers before we get into the game, not the game plan, but our notes. So check this out, everybody. The Browns had 13 penalties against the Jags, which lead the NFL right now. So undisciplined, possibly. So maybe we could see a little more of that on Sunday, especially the Browns will be licking their chops, to the Giants with that offense. going against the Giants offense. So maybe we'll see some encroachment, some penalties on the defensive side of the ball for the Browns, being eager to get to the quarterback. Interesting as well, the Browns with that defense have not had a turnover yet on defense. And they have have a -2 turnover differential. Although they did have a couple sacks last week, Garrett and I forget who else, but Browns are -2. Giants are -1 in the turnover differential, so similar there.
Pretty similar.
Yep. But when you look at the Browns, it's a type of team that wants to run the ball and take a little pressure. That's what I've seen last week looking at the tape. They want to take a little pressure off Watson and establish the running game. And I think that won't be any different this week either. So Mike, why don't we any thoughts on that with the turnovers or anything else?
Yeah, they're very similar in a lot of different categories. We'll touch on them too as we break down what we're getting to right now.
Yep.
A lot of similarities. And again, this could be a very close match. It could be decided again by field goal. So we'll save our predictions at the end, but it's very close. Very close.
The Cleveland defense, we've been talking about. The media's been talking about them for a couple of years. How good they are. They did give up 323 yards to the Jaguars last week.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to go over the rushing yards. I believe they gave over close to 100 on the rushing side.
I didn't look at that. I just looked at two games collectively and put them together and kind of meshed it up.
Yeah, the Jaguars had about 130 yards, 127 yards rushing. So come on, Giants. I mean, they're as much as the Browns get their accolades for the defense, you could run the ball on them.
Yeah.
And I would think Myles Garrett and the Wilkins, is it Wilkins the linebacker? But these they have a good, very good linebacker.
They got that kid.
Yeah.
That kid. What's it? Usha Karamoa.
One of them, yes. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, he's their leading tackler. He's a good player.
Yeah, and they also have Jordan Hicks. That's who I was thinking about. The middle linebacker came over from Minnesota. Yeah. Pretty good linebacker. He seems to be all over the field. And
wasn't he a safety coming out of college?
I thought he was. Yeah. And
he's a big boy. He was like 215. I guess he put a little more size on and made him a linebacker.
I probably did. Yeah, they put him right in the middle. Here we go. So Bill's putting us out. Found it, Chris. The only other time it happened was in 1989 when the Vikings beat the Rams 23-21. Wow, it's a long time ago, man. Good find there, Bill. I know it was mentioned this week, but I didn't know the exact game. Unbelievable. Jay Farry's, at least I won't get PTSD watching Myles Garrett switching to Evan Neal side pre-snap. Yeah, and Luminor's doing a pretty decent job. So hopefully, we'll have Myles Garrett will maybe overplay some of the runs, or some of the play action stuff. But interesting enough, Mike. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, a few names to throw out. Kadarius Toney on the practice squad. He's not ready. They're not going to activate him. Gary Brightwell on the practice squad.
Wow.
I don't know about him being activated. I don't know what his situation is, but he is on the practice squad. And then also Roy Remember Roy? I don't know how to pronounce it. The big offensive lineman. I don't know if he was from Africa.
Oh, that's the guy that Osi Umenyiora.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
6'9".
Yeah. Had a strength, speed, just very raw. So anyway, he's on the Browns practice squad, which is really which is interesting.
Yeah, that kid can have a career in a practice squad for 8 years and have a nice career.
Roy Mabdatika. Yes, and you get some. He just needs the right coach to help develop him. So who knows? But good for him. Good for him, because I know the Giants were high on him, bringing him in as a developmental player, and he was snagged, I believe, or they let him go. Maybe they just let him go off the practice squad. That's probably what happened, because nobody would have put him on the 53, being that raw, I would think. But hey, Cole, thanks for jumping in, man. I appreciate you stopping by for our show tonight. Always great seeing you. All right, Mike, you want to get to some nuts and bolts and take it away with the Giants stuff?
Yeah, let's look at the Giants. It's only a small sample, 2 games, you guys, and again, we've seen I hope the worst of the Giants. from game one, and we saw a little glimpse of what the Giants could do and could be in game two. Right now, we'll look at Daniel Jones. I just focused on 3 players who had the best games offensive for the Giants last week. So Jones had total is 364 yards. He's averaging 182 yards a game passing. We want better than that. Of course, we want better than that for a guy making that kind of money. He's got 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and so he's averaging only 5.2 yards per attempt. And you kind of want to see that go up, in the 8s, somewhere around there. It'd be nice, And the next 2 guys I'm going to talk about have done really well, and I think we expected this. Singletary, who had a really good game on Sunday. Unfortunately, that fumble hurt us because we were driving at least in scoring position. He has a total of 132 yards. He's averaging 66 yards a game, and that equates to 1,100-yard season, so which is not bad. I think the Giants would take that if he can do that, stay healthy.
Yeah. And
he's averaging, which is really good, 5.1 yards per carry.
Great move on the touchdown too. That
that cut.
Very Barkley-like on that cut.
Yeah, he made that. That guy looked like a deer in headlights. He froze. And of course, Neighbors got better from game 1 to game 2. He really looked dominant. You could tell when they showed the focused on the matchup, you could see that corner a lot of times playing off him, and he didn't want. No way he wanted Neighbors to get behind him. You could just see it.
Yeah.
And Neighbors is averaging 96.5 yards per game so far, and you won't even think about that. I guarantee you, he's only thinking about that pass that he dropped at the end of that game. I guarantee you that is gonna motivate him. That won't be a negative thing for him. That's gonna motivate him. So those are the 3 things I see. And
Mike, just to interject, there was a stat yesterday that Neighbors in the first 2 games all time NFL most yards. He's 3rd on that list for the first 2 games of a rookie year. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know who's 1 and 2?
Would have to bring it up, but
okay.
I don't remember who is. I think he's 3 actually.
I know he had more yards than Jerry Rice did in Jerry Rice's first game. I know I saw that.
Yeah, it was 2 names that you wouldn't necessarily think of. Good players, but not the obvious one. Ones that you might think about.
Yeah, and when I look at the Giants defensively, I took three things that stood out, aside from the missed tackles, which we were in the back and on Twitter had a little debate going, and that really bothered me, those missed tackles. But right now the Giants are surrendering 24.5 points per game, and they got outplayed totally by the Vikings in game 1, and 2 games in a row, the top 3 players you want to think on the Giants defense, Lawrence, Burns, and Thibodeau. Here's what they have after 2 games. They have 1 sack, and that's Lawrence.
Yeah.
On the first defensive possession against the Vikings, Lawrence got a sack, and they only have 13 tackles between 3 of them. That's got to change. Positive note, the Phillips, the rookie, has 16 tackles just by himself. And we've talked about this many times. When you have your safeties and corners leading the team in tackles, that could be a problem.
Sure. You don't want your safety necessarily leading the tackles, right? We saw that a couple of years ago. With the Giants. So
what is Mark saying? Good night, he says.
Nico Collins. That wouldn't be one you might think about, but that's recent. Nico Collins is first, and then Jefferson. No big surprise. Then he
fella LSU.
So good stuff.
Okay.
So that's good. So
that is good.
For all the talk about Jones not being able to get the ball, I know it's a lot of yards after catch, but he still has to find him and still have to get the ball to him. So good job by Jones.
And that's a good point there, Chris. He needs to get him, Malik Neighbors while he's going. Can't throw 3. Get him while he's in stride.
That's right.
You know, that's how you get those yards after the catch.
Yep.
And I added a little thing here in
Mhm.
special teams. I think special teams is going to be very important in this game. We all know that Cano's not playing. I mean, they signed that guy Curtis Joseph.
Greg
And-
Joseph.
Craig. Now, Curtis
Yeah.
Joseph is the goalie. That's right. Greg Joseph. And you already gave his stats, and he's not a Cano, obviously.
Right.
And that could be the deciding factor because I looked at the two punters on these teams, and they're pretty close in their gross punts and their net. They're very, very similar.
Mhm.
So that could be, field position could be a vital one in the kicking game, and then also at the special teams.
Yep.
And we'll get into that with the Browns. I'll talk about their kicker,
Mhm.
but at least the Giants have a healthy kicker for this game. That's all
Yeah.
you can ask for. They didn't have that, and I remember, and I thought I heard on the show that Craig mentioned that, and I didn't even realize this, that Cano, there was question about his hamstring before the game.
Yeah, well, he a couple of days earlier or a day before he was being bothered by hamstring. He wasn't on the injury report, but it seemed to come to light during warmups, and
Okay.
he went and our friend Joey Z was at the game. He went into the locker room and then came back out and ironically nailed like a 50-something yarder in warmups. So
Well, they probably take them up.
maybe, but that'd be weird that he would kick a 50-something yarder in warmups after maybe not tweaking anything. Maybe he was fine, but yeah, I get it. You don't know, and he said he's all right. The medical staff cleared him, but not to rehash this whole thing. If I'm Dable, I know hindsight's 2020. I wouldn't have had him done kickoffs. I'm not saying they should have.
That's what I was leading to. That's what I was leading to.
Just don't do the kickoffs. Not because of running, because that would be the last thing on my mind. Is just driving the ball, that far, maybe tweaking stuff. Because we've seen guys, hammer kickoffs and pull things. So it's like, why not limit the risk and just have them do field goals? But once again, hindsight's 2020. So
That's right.
yeah, but yeah,
That's right. So now we shift gears to the Browns, and
Mike, but before you get to the Browns, let me
Yeah.
just throw this in there. I got some offensive ranks for the Giants. So they're
Okay.
averaging 12 points per game, which ranks 30th in the NFL. 170 yards per game, 170.5 passing yards. That ranks 23rd. 101.5 rushing yards per game. That ranks 21st. And they've given up the ball 3 turnovers, which ties them for 8th. So they have 3 turnovers on offense. But
okay.
yeah,
Well, with the Browns, very similar.
Mhm.
Watson and Jones, their numbers are pretty close. Watson's average 177.5 yards a game, only 4.5 yards per reception, and he's a 1 and 2 ratio with his TDs and interceptions.
yep.
So he's really, Giant fans are screaming about Jones's contract. I can only imagine what the Brown fans are doing.
Absolutely. And
you
Mike,
imagine?
they must be screaming for sure.
Right? And that's a longer contract, right, Chris?
What's that again? The
Brown's Watson contract is
yeah.
longer.
Yeah,
Ugh.
absolutely. So they're gonna that'd be a tough way to get out of that. Mark, just to bring this, Mark says the other thing to consider, given that they signed the kicker, is that they did not have confidence in the practice squad kicker. I think that's partly true, Mark. But then the other thing to consider is they get a roster exemption on the practice squad because he's an international player. So
That's
he does
true.
not count against the practice squad or roster. So, but to your point, if that's the case, then they had an open roster spot. They could have. Well, I guess they could have added him. But yeah,
Maybe 0-2. Dable, if he didn't make that move, fans have been screaming.
yeah, and he's a developmental guy. But you might as well
Yeah,
use him. Hey, if he
extreme.
doesn't count, keep him on the let him develop. But yeah, that's a good point though, Mark.
Yeah. So and now we talked about Chubb being out, but they got a kid, Jerome Brown, I mentioned quickly in the beginning of the show. He's going to have a good game and move the chains a bit. He's doing a good job right now, but it's only 19 carries. He's averaging 5.7 yards a carry. No touchdowns, but clearly they're not the same team without a healthy Chubb. And then you look at their leading receiver, which is Jerry Jeudy. He's averaged only 49 yards per game. So when you look at the Giants and you look at the Browns offense, it sounds weird, but the Giants look like they have more of a threat of players. When you look at Neighbors, and look at Robinson, I mean, other than Judy, Amari Cooper is not having that good of a year. I think he only has 4 receptions.
No, and he had a couple drop. He had a big drop last week and the drop a week before against the Cowboys.
Right.
So yeah, he's I don't know what's going on with him. A lot of talk in Cleveland too. That what's happening with him? He's dropped too many balls already.
I don't know. I haven't watched him enough. I don't watch Cleveland enough. So
yeah, me neither.
I don't want to just say anything.
But they're not happy because he has dropped a few already in 2 games.
Right. Defensively with the Browns, they're giving up a little bit more than the Giants are, 25.5 a game.
Mm-hmm.
Myles Garrett, you mentioned him. He has a couple of sacks. He leads that team in that.
Mm-hmm.
And we mentioned the other kid, Koromua. He's leading the team with tackles. So those are the 2 really main front 7 guys that the Giants have to worry about. Those 2 guys right there.
For sure.
And again, special teams, pretty similar, and not only in the punting, but also in kick return. Both teams are around 25 per kick and the punt return. Now, the kicker for the Browns is Dustin Hopkins. He's 4 for 4 so far, and he has kicked a 53-yarder. So that's something that you might want to. That could be the difference in the game where he kicks a 50-plus yard field goal to win it.
Yeah, what else would be new, right? Giants, another loss.
Of course.
How many of these we're going to endure? Oh, my
Giants.
God, for years and years. Yeah, Bill, you got it. McNamee. The kicker in the practice squad, right? I believe he was with Rutgers at some point. That's where they
He looked good in the last preseason game.
Yeah, he did. He did look like a strong leg.
Good.
He's got that number. Was he number 46 or some weird number? So it looks a little odd too. Kickers, and I think Greg Joseph, it looks strange. He's number 34, which I don't know. Kickers in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, that's
reminds
weird.
me to college. In the 90s, you see these kickers in college. But all right, that's good stuff there, Mike. And just to go off of what you just mentioned, couple things on Cleveland's ranks on offense. They're averaging 23 points per game, which I think you mentioned. That's 22nd on defense. I'm sorry. They're giving up 23 points on defense, which ranks 22nd in the league. So surprising enough, you don't expect the Cleveland defense to give that much up. But once again, they've only played 2 games. They're giving up 180 yards passing, which ranks 13th, 114.5 yards per game, which ranks 14th. And they have 0 takeaways on defense.
Oh, wow.
So once again, we keep hearing last year, the defense for Cleveland. And I think we're still accepting the fact that this is the same team, the same defense, but they haven't really shown it yet. I mean, listen, they gave up 18 points against Jacksonville. Very good. But they also gave up 330 yards almost, total offense, which, hey, that's not shutting anybody down. I mean, that's fair. But I think the Giants can move the ball on them.
I think so too. I like I said, this is a game, and we'll talk again more in detail. This is a game that I think both teams can probably move the ball. It's a question of who's going to execute more consistently, who's not going to make the mistakes. Typical football. 1-on-1.
Yep. Yeah, and hey, JT Savoy, thanks for jumping in. Whoever's coming in here late, Juan, thank you for popping in. Yeah, he missed the first one. He's talking about I guess when Gillian missed the extra point and never thought about giving him another shot. Yeah, that's probably right, Juan. They probably said, all right, enough. Mike, interesting stat, and everybody out there, I heard. This year, in the first 2 weeks, scoring is down 37% compared to 2 years ago. Okay. And the consensus around a lot of the all 22 scientists and I catch the all 22, but I'm not diving into it every day like some of these people. The consensus is around the league is that when you have receivers like Neighbors, Jefferson, the cover 2 has become very popular again. The Tampa 2 soft shell cover 2 has been very popular. And those of you who don't know, it's basically playing 2 high safety looks deep, maybe 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, 15, 17 yards. And the reason is they don't want to get beat deep. So everything has been underneath, or a lot has. So a lot of people think that the scoring is down, and we've seen that with the Giants, not been able to go downfield as much. And a lot of it has been underneath, is because teams aren't allowing you to go over the top. So interesting, and I think that's how the Giants will probably play it against Deshaun Watson, right?
Yeah.
Let Judy, Cooper, get the underneath stuff, and not try to, get beat deep. And on the flip side, I think Stefanski is definitely going to do the same thing with Neighbors and Hyatt and, especially in Slayton, not letting those guys get deep to bust the game open. Because those are the home run type plays that could bust the game open, or at least put the Giants, momentum wise, So
yeah.
And I know we'll get into the game plan and what you think on Truth's Truth in a little bit. But why don't we? What else you want to add, Mike? Besides any of the stats, what's your feeling on those stats that you just read? In terms of
I see a very close game. I see another game where, each possession is going to matter. Like I just said, whoever can have the time of possession and capitalize on scoring chances is going to win this game. I don't see I don't see an explosive, high scoring game, but I do see a team, not because their defense is so great. I just think because the offenses are not as potent on both sides.
Right.
So I just think you're going to see boy, I don't want to make a prediction yet. Let me save it. Save it.
So Kevin and Mike, Mark, good point there. Could be that they didn't go with Gilliam because of the holder. Yeah. I mean, a holder's a big part of the process, right? So it used to be years ago, and Mike, you remember this, and some of the older folks, it used to be the backup quarterback was always the holder. That changed partly because the punters weren't doing much. They figured let them get in sync with the kickers who weren't doing much, and they had the punters hold for the kickers so the backups can get more work and let them do their thing. But, yeah. That's interesting. Could be. I mean, a holder is part of the whole, the snap, the hold, the spot. It's all part of it. It has to be a perfect operation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Mark. That's a great point, man.
We take that for granted. That's what we do. Absolutely.
So listen to a few of the Cleveland sports outlets this week. And once again, Tony Grossi, if you find him on Twitter, he's been around in Cleveland for years and years, has like 140,000 followers, writes for the paper. He's really up on a lot with Cleveland. So I got a lot of info from him this week. He's on YouTube and also on Twitter. But one of the things that he talked about was Kevin Stefanski, kind of like a Bill Belichick. He's going to cater his game plan around the opponent. And as we all know, the Giants gave up 215 yards in rushing last week against the Vikings, or against the Washington. So you got to think Stefanski, especially with Deshaun Watson not being, up to where he was a few years ago, they're going to ease him into another game. And I know you're going to talk about this on the game plan. I don't want to get into it, but if I could just say, this Giants running game, this Giants defensive, against the run, boy, Mike, they got to step up, man. They just have to find a way to slow down Ford and is it Foreman, the other running back? The rookie?
Yeah, I think that's his name. I don't know too sure. I'm not too sure who that is.
But they have a good running back tandem, so they got to slow it down. I mean, they rushed for over 100 yards last week as a unit, but man, that was so discerning last week, trying to get off of on third down.
When you watched the Giant game last week, they had that one play when Micah McFadden he blitzed. And he had a clear shot.
Oh, we had him, yes.
And I understand that Daniels is an elusive quarterback, but you got to break down and make that tackle. They made Brian Robertson, who I think is a good underrated runner, but they made him look like Eric Dickinson. I mean, that one play. and I take the game, so I played it back like 5-6 times. I'm on this when you ran it in between the tackles and you didn't see him. Where was he? Then suddenly he takes off. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And if he had breakaway speed, he'd have been gone for a touchdown.
Right.
And Pennick had to catch him from behind. And you could see guys grabbing him.
Mm-hmm.
You're grabbing him. I don't understand the lack of the tackling that I see in the NFL, especially with the Giants, because I watch the Giants more than any team. It's just a frustrating thing to watch these guys every year.
Yeah.
Make you shake your head and scratch your head. Why they cannot make the basic tackles.
Right. And Mike, they know when Dexter is out of the lineup and they go right at the middle. That's where a big chunk of these yards, when Dexter's out of that game and needs a breather, they're going at him.
So, right. So when they do that, maybe they should do a thing where they have a linebacker blitz into that hole just to try to clog it. Do something, because he's he's a great player, Dexter, but he's got to take breaks. He can't play 70 snaps. He can't.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big man. He's 340 something pounds.
Yeah. And speaking of big men, I'll give you another ex-Giant that we're going to see. Delvin Tomlinson, our old friend. He's with the Browns.
Yeah.
So that would imagine if Delvin Tomlinson could have played a couple more years and alongside Dex, that would have been a nice fit, right?
Yeah. Well, that was the history of the Giants, right? It didn't start with him. It started way back, right? With Barry Cofield left us.
Linval Joseph. We can go through the list.
Oh,
and the thing with,
we had so many talented tackles leave us.
And the thing with Dalvin was
Hankins.
Another one who's still bouncing around. I think he's in a good run stuffer with the Cowboys. I wouldn't mind having him back. The thing with Dalvin is he wasn't much of a pass rusher, but he could stuff the run, right? He was great against the run. So
he was coming into his own in that last year with the Giants. He was.
Yeah, we're thin at the – and listen, Roches is playing okay, but still, when Dexter gets out of that game, man, they're going right at him. And I think your point.
Let me ask this question, Chris. Then why get rid of Jordan Phillips? Wasn't he like a road stuffer?
That's what he was supposed to be. I think that they had confidence in Chapman in his game over Phillips. And is that why they got rid of Phillips? Because Chapman was going to make the team and it was a numbers game and they thought Jordan would kind of be buried on the back end of the roster as a defensive tackle. But
I don't know.
It's going to come time that Chapman's going to get more snaps. Get him in there.
Well, I know he made one play. Tackle for a loss. I've never seen that. I didn't look and see how many snaps he got, but they got to get contribution from the other guys. They really do.
Yeah. Here's something interesting that something will come to an head. The Giants can't get off on third down, right? Absolutely horrible. Now the Browns, not very good on third down converting. They were 2 for 14 last week. So this week,
that means, right?
I'm sorry.
You know what that means, right? You just kissed the death of the Giants right there.
That the Browns will be 13 for 16 or 14.
Yeah. They're gonna have they're gonna be like converting every time now.
Oh, Mark, Jordan Phillips was just sent to IR. I didn't know this. Even though he said he is not injured. Read into. Yep, it's a roster move, right? Right, Mark. They put him on IR for 4 weeks. They save the roster spot. He still gets paid, and then in 4 weeks. They'll see where they're at and move him in. So, wow, a lot of turmoil in Dallas, huh? Jordan Phillips saying he's not injured. Okay.
I thought there was a thing on you can't do that anymore. There's got to be someone that has to be injured.
You're not supposed to, but we've seen, phantom hamstrings injuries. For the most part, you see the guys go along with it. It's kind of like a hush-hush thing, behind closed doors where they really not supposed to talk about it. But, wow, for Jordan Phillips to mention that's interesting. Maybe he's looking to get released. Maybe that was his way of being released.
Maybe that's it. That's right.
Oh my goodness. Wow. But the running game's a big concern on Sunday. And one of the other things, just to point out about the Browns, Mike, is that in the Cleveland media, they were saying that looking at the tape again, the all 22. That Watson actually did a really good job because he only did what he was asked to do. He wasn't, they weren't looking for him to make big plays down the field. They wanted to run the ball. They wanted to keep everything, within 20 yards and just pick his spots. So I know us not in that Cleveland market, we expect Deshaun Watson from the Texan days to throw for 300 plus yards, a few touchdowns, and light it up, because that's what we remember when he was really good. But it seems like they're just easing him into. I just hope that this weekend isn't his come out game against this secondary. You know what I mean? Because it seems like the Giants always walk into these type of games where it's the coming out party for Deshaun Watson after waiting, and he's progressed. According to Cleveland, he's progressed nicely the past 2 weeks. The first week, not so great. Second week, big improvement. Now, this week, I think they're going to run the ball, but who knows? I mean, if the Giants can stop the run, then they'll have to, open it up a little bit.
Yeah. I think both teams are similar in that way. I mean, like you just said, they don't ask too much from Watson. I think the Giants do the same thing with Jones.
Yeah.
They don't ask too much from him, just secure the ball, try to short, safe passes.
Right.
I guarantee you, especially with the neighbors, a lot of yardage after the catch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Jay makes a good point. Watson is a game manager now, and I think even more so because both of his tackles have been out. His starting tackles, and Conklin and Wills, have been out since last year. So they're keeping things a little bit tighter, a little bit closer. Maybe not going to open up downfield as much to give Watson, the pressure. But, he seems like a manager. But according to Cleveland, they think that he's progressing in the right direction where things might be opening up a little more. But I think, and we'll get to your truth. I don't want to, jump on your stuff. But right. I think we know what Stefanski's going to do looking at this run defense. But anyway, we'll get to that in a few minutes. What other thoughts you have, Mike, about the game?
Well, I think I would like to see anyway. I would like to see either team kind of try to open it up, try to stretch the field. I would like to see that. Even if you're not successful, at least you put in the back of the minds of those defensive backs, and that can open up the slant plays. When you got a guy like Neighbors, he can beat you deep, he can beat you on the slant, and either way, he'll get yards after the catch. So, but I will say that, I'm disappointed, and I don't know. I don't go to Giant practices. I just don't know what's going on with Hyatt. I don't know what's going on with him.
I wonder, Mike, and hey, Mark, thanks for jumping in here. Always great seeing you on both of our shows. At the NFL level, you always say getting off press coverage, being able to block, and I know Jay mentioned that before. What do you think, Mike? You think this is a bit – now, we're not watching every play. I've seen some of the old 22. I haven't keyed on him as much, more or less on the offense and defensive line. But without knowing that, do you think that could be part of the issue with Hyatt, is the blocking downfield and press coverage?
Yeah, perhaps he's not a good blocker, but you're telling me every other wide receiver out there is a good blocker? I guarantee you that the kid out of Philadelphia is not a good blocker. The little guy, he's not a good blocker.
Devontae Smith.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no way he's a good blocker.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell me he's blocking corners.
Well, he's only 165 pounds.
Right. You're telling me he's blocking, the bigger corners and safeties downfield? No, he's not.
Well, and I think Hyatt knows this, that he needed to put on some strength, because in the offseason, you heard that Hyatt did put on some weight, and he was hitting he's getting stronger in the weight room. So I think if you read between the lines, that was probably something that they told him, like, hey, I'm talking about the coaching staff. Listen, you need to get stronger. You need to be able to get off press. You need to be able to block that field. And maybe, like we're thinking, that is a big reason why we haven't seen much from him yet.
So I just looked at Jay's comment. He says Smith is a willing blocker. So are you telling me, how do you know, Jay, that implies that Hyatt is not a willing blocker? How do you know he's not a willing blocker? Because Smith is not a good blocker. Maybe he's trying, like that's what you mean by willing blocker. But how do you know Hyatt's not trying? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to key on him and see how long he's engaged with the defender before he releases. That kind of stuff we have to.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too. I like to see, how like compare, because I know Smith. He was never a blocker, even in Alabama days. There's no way.
Yep.
He was a blocker.
Yep.
He didn't have to block in Alabama.
Right. And Mark
You
brings
know?
up the route running. We know, right, Mark? I mean, that was a big thing with Hyatt, and supposedly last year, at the end of last year, his route running really, really
See,
improved. But
yeah. Here's my
could be.
thing. Here's my thing. The Giants are 0-2, you know, and you got Slayton, who he's done a great job for them for a 5th-round pick. You know, he's there when they need him. But I really don't think they're going to re-sign him. He's in a final year.
Who's this? I'm sorry, Mark. Who's this?
Slayton.
Oh, Slayton. Oh, yeah.
He's in a
Right.
final year.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants drafted 3 wide receivers, 3 consecutive drafts. There's a reason why they did that. You gotta, whether he fails miserably, you gotta let Hyatt play, so you know what you got. If they don't give him enough snaps, give him 2-3 snaps a game, what's that going to tell you? You cannot make a good evaluation of a player on 3-4 snaps a game. I don't care who you are. You can't.
Well,
and whether he stinks it up, let him stink it up. At least you know. Then you go and find another guy in the offseason or maybe through waivers now. But you gotta give him ample snaps so you can make a good assessment. Yeah. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, or you only let him, come in on passing downs where it's not a running down. But then teams pick up on that.
That's too predictable.
Too predictable. Yeah. You're going to have to mix it up. But the blocking, is a concern.
Well, if you're worried about your running game because Hyatt doesn't block, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you have everybody else blocking, you're still going to gain yards.
Yeah.
And remember, Hyatt's engaging downfield with somebody.
Right. And Singletary, I mean, Tracy's a little different maybe because he could hit the outside. Singletary's more of a between the tackles type of runner. I mean, he'll get to the edge, but I view Singletary as more between the tackles, hitting that hole and having that burst through the hole. So,
yeah, and Jay makes a good point. I did say Slayton is a good NFL wide receiver, but I don't think he's going to be affordable to the Giants in the offseason because they're gonna some team is going to come by and offer him a lot more.
Yeah,
and we know Shane. He didn't do it with Taylor. Tyrod Taylor, he got more money from the Jets, and he just let him go. So he's going to do the same thing with Slayton.
Yeah, this is probably going to be it for Slayton, and they'll upgrade with either a veteran or another draft pick.
Yeah, you got to give him at least a few snaps. I mean,
right?
Give him like 6-7 snaps. Don't give him just 2. It's like
and you know what, Mike? Even more so, packages, right? You'll have him in. They're probably just going to have him on certain packages, right? When it's not 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, or 11 personnel might be something, 10 personnel with no tight end.
Yeah, line them up on the same side with Neighbors.
Yeah,
and have them both do jets. Let them do jet. Let them go and let's see. You got the defensive corners and safeties have to make a decision.
Yeah, because the one thing with Neighbors is that's supposed to open up everything else for the other guy, for Wandell, for Slayton, for Hyatt.
That's right.
It's pretty funny. Jay brings up Cager. Yeah, Cager. That's been he's not a good blocker. I mean, we can go down the list of bad blocking tight ends and receivers. I mean, I'll give you a name: Travis Beckham. Before there was an Odell Beckham.
That's right.
Out of Nebraska, right, Mike? Was he out of Nebraska?
Yep. And he was not a blocker. And Cager was a wide receiver. They turned him into a tight end.
Oh yeah, and obviously we know Donnell, right? Larry Donnell, terrible blocker. Converted. So yeah, we've been down this road so many times. Bellinger, right? And that's a nice segue. What is going on with our friend Daniel Bellinger and the tight end position?
He had one pass, one catch, one pass attempt to him on Sunday.
Yeah, mind-boggling there too.
I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like. I mean, you've gone to practices. I haven't. You watch. Them live. I haven't. You go to games. I don't know what the coaches see with those guys. You can't tell me those guys are not open when you got Neighbors running downfield. You got Robinson. You got Slayton. You can't tell me Bellinger or the young kid Theo Johnson little curl route. They're not open just to move the chains. They got to be open. I'm sorry, they got to be open.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they are open. Jones doesn't see them. All right, that could be. That's a fair question. That's a fair one.
Right.
You know.
And you even heard a little bit of the rumblings about Bellinger during training camp, that the team that they were a little more higher on Theo, and he was moving up, and Bellinger may not be as big of a focal point as we all thought from 2 years ago. So yeah, man, strange. I don't know. You know, there's so many gray areas with the decisions and what they view as the right thing to do that we're in the dark about. We don't get any clarification, obviously, on why, and that just, you know, it just makes us as fans speculate, right? We just want to speculate on everything because we really don't have the real answer. So we're kind of just throwing darts at a dartboard trying to find some answers. But yeah, Bellinger, man, we were so high on him, you know, when he obviously right before the eye injury, but even after that, he was still involved, you know. But yeah, I don't get
look, they you know, those guys know with it. They know more than we do. I get it. They know more than us, and you know, we are just the fans venting. You know, I know that kid Theo Johnson has a very athletic player, you know, and he's growing and learning the game. But I still think there's a Bellinger on this, a fit for a Bellinger on this team.
Right.
I really do.
I mean, when I think of a Daniel Bellinger, I think of this Giants running game, pounding the ball, and just keep getting those chunks, you know, when they can move the ball. And then there's Bellinger set up perfectly to chip, get out in his pass route, and there, you know, and like we've seen against the Giants so many times, you know, the tight end hasn't been hurt of all game, and then the couple big plays there he shows up, and that's kind of what we're waiting for from Bellinger is late in the game.
He's your Kevin Boss. That's right. Your Kevin Boss right there.
There you go. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do think Giant fans are going to enjoy Delvin Singletary with each passing game.
Right.
The kid, man, that kid, does he hit that hole?
Singletary?
Singletary. He just.
Oh my God! Hits. Oh, is that what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, he hits that hole with such abandonment. He does not.
Yeah, I'm going to preface, like, listen, love Barkley when he's here, but there's a difference when you hear Singletary. He's not as good as Barkley, obviously, but boy, he doesn't jump around. He just hits it, man. He hits that hole and goes. He trusts it even if it's not there, which is kind of like what you want to see, like, because the holes don't open up very fast in the NFL or they're there that long. But boy, he jumps in there whether it's there or not. He knows where he has to go, and if he has to do a jump cut, he'll take it. But there's no dancing in the backfield. Check this out, what Mark put in. Mark, I don't know if this is true either, and I know you may be, you know, a little unsure of the numbers, but wow, Theo Johnson played 80% of the snaps, Manhertz about 19%, and Bellinger 12%. If we have to find that, if that is true, that is absolutely crazy. Mark, our statistician, bringing the heat here. Wow, that is we know Manhertz is a good blocker, but he's even at 19%. Johnson, we haven't seen too many passes thrown his way, so I don't even get it. Wow, interesting.
I don't know either.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow, mind-boggling. The one thing with this coaching staff, right, Mike? Some of the decisions and some of the things we hear are head scratchers. We just don't know why they do things the way they do. I don't know. We just don't know. It's with their lack of playing real players in preseason, they're probably fine. Yeah, by game 3, I know. Seriously.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what they say. September is the extension of the preseason. But anyway, Mike, moving right along because it's 7:54, and we've, we got everybody's been holding up here enough with us. Let's go, Mike. Truth's truth. Let's bring it up.
Okay,
truth, and we're gonna go to your. Go ahead.
No, and this is just my take, and guys, chime in if I missed something. Okay, so we'll talk about the Giants' top 3 keys, and I'm gonna, like I always do, I'm gonna start on the defense side of the ball. As we all know, the Giants' defense has not been what we expected this year. Game 1 was a total stinker. They didn't compete. They might have been trying, but they didn't compete. Game 2, we saw a little bit of better, some flashes of certain plays like Phillips. The kid had a great game. Rookie corner had a great game, no doubt. And so did Tyler Newman. He had a good game.
Which begs
But-
the question: why did they pull Drew Phillips against the Vikings so early? And he was like, he only had a handful of snaps.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
crazy.
don't know that.
Okay, mind-boggling. All right, go ahead.
That's a
Sorry,
good
Mike.
question.
Another question we have to have.
Right.
We want to know.
But for the Giants to have what we all expected this year, at least a top tier, top 15, top 10 defense, which we all thought was possible before the season started. Lawrence, Burns, Thibodeau, and Okereke, they got to play at their highest level. They have to play at the highest level. It's good to get contributions from the other guys, like Michael McFadden. You get a little contribution from the other guys that come in, like we mentioned before. But I'm just talking about defensive seven. They got to get those guys to have games that they are not career mind-blowing games that they're expected to perform. We haven't seen that yet. And if they would have played that way on Sunday, they would have won that game. Washington wouldn't have got 7 opportunities to kick a field goal, maybe 3. But they let Washington move the ball between the 20-yard lines too much. It was not a Giant defense that we are used to seeing. If you're a long time Giant fan.
Mike, let me ask you this: Does the Shane Bowen defense, and it's early yet, does it seem very reminiscent to Patrick Graham when he was
Yes. Great point. Absolutely, Chris. I thought of that. I did think of that when I watched on Sunday. Vaguely, I thought of it. And a little bend that don't break. Yeah.
A love-hate relationship, I like to say, because he will keep you out of the end zone, but by the fourth quarter, if the game's close, you're worried about that defense being gassed.
Yep, that's true. Good point. On the Giants side of the ball, they really need a repeat performance. Daniel Jones doesn't have to throw 300 yards. I know we would love to see that, and trust me, I would welcome that if he did. But he needs to just make good decisions, get the ball into the hands of the playmakers like he did. And Singletary and Neighbors had great games. Oh, look at this.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt you. I just put it up.
No,
there.
that's okay.
Wow. So Mark confirmed. Everybody could read it. Johnson, 86%. Manhurts, 28.
Johnson,
Bellinger, 23. Week 2, Johnson, 79. Manhurts, 46. And Bellinger, 7. Wow. Well, with a banged up secondary too.
That's who they like.
Washington, who had a couple guys out. You'd think Bellinger would be even more active.
Based on that, it looks like they really like Manhurst because he got more snaps in game 2 than game 1.
Right. I mean, I know sometimes it's team specific in terms of the game plan and what they want to do. Let's keep an eye on this, everybody, this week and see if this trend continues with Bellinger.
Yeah, it's hard for me because I work and I'm trying to watch the game and still work, so I can't really watch it like you guys can.
Mark, I know we're going to see it with our eyes, but give us these numbers next week. That's your assignment. You're awesome.
Mark,
Thank you. Let's get these numbers next week on the tight end position. Either our show or the regular, NY Giants Rush show. But that would be throw that out there, man. Awesome stuff. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. So again. You put the ball into the playmakers' hands, which he did. Singletary and Neighbors had great games, and I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised if they have a repeat performance and have 2 good games. Like to see more out of Robinson. Didn't get a lot of touches, Unfortunately, you only get about 60 snaps, right? In a basic offensive game plan, maybe a little more.
Yeah, but, I mean, we had limited opportunities last week, 8 possessions, which is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, and let's face it, if I had a choice between Neighbors or Robinson, who I want the ball in the hands, I want Neighbors.
Yeah.
So, and then like I said earlier, I think special teams could be a deciding factor with Cano out. I think both teams are very close in the kickoff, punt returns, and even punting. I think they're pretty close in that. So field position could be a key factor. Which punter does the best job, and then kicking, obviously, they have a guy a little more well established.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the guy we got. Who knows? Yeah. He could do something like, come off the street and be a hero. We don't know, but
yep.
I think. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and to your, 'cause you're talking about special teams, in our punt returner, Ishmael Maret, who was with Jacksonville, returned one for a touchdown last year. He didn't get an opportunity last week. He was on the 48 on game day, so we'll probably see him activated again as the sixth receiver, fifth receiver, and be the punt returner. So let's see if he can, flip the field for us a little bit on punt returns.
Okay. And then we flip it to the Browns and their top three keys that I see. They need to have their top three players that we mentioned before need to play very well. They got Watson needs to play well. Obviously, the quarterback. It always boils down to the quarterback. Judy needs to get some big plays in. You can't get little paper cuts like little 5 yards here and there. They can't do that. They have to challenge the Giants secondary. They really do. Test them, challenge them, especially on the other side. I know Banks will be tested every week, and I think he'll have his growing pains. But I think overall Banks will do fine. I really do. But the key is going to be on the other side. And right now we have who was on the other side last week?
Well, you had Adoree in there quite a bit.
Oh, so you'll probably see him again.
He saw Flott a little bit, but Adoree, I thought for the most part.
Okay. All right. So that's going to be a key right there. The Browns, we talked about this, the Browns' top two defenders. We got Myles Garrett and Owusu, I'm killing his name. Owusu Karamuda. They're their two best defensive players, I think.
Denzel Ward, but once again, he's on a pitch count. Only played 13 snaps with a shoulder. I mean, he's an all-pro, but once again, we don't know how long he'll be in there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the front seven.
Yeah, of course, right.
Front seven, yeah. So I think the Giants, they're not going to stop them, but try to limit them. Don't let them try to take over the game. That's big. And again, the special teams, which I think overall the Browns have an edge because of their kicker. More established. I think they have the edge there. So this game could be one of those games like we saw last week. Both teams move the ball a little bit. Red zone won't be that successful. Even though the Giants they were 3 for 3 in the red zone, and who would have thought that, by the way? They were 3 for 3. The other team was 0 for 7, and we lost the game.
Yeah. And look at Cold. Cold, great point. And I know you guys and Mark brought it up. Man, Leonard Williams, man, he's having a good year for the Seahawks in a couple games. He had a couple sacks, about 4 pressures last week. So, yeah, we all thought maybe there was a chance he'd come back in free agency if they could work it out. He's tight with Dex, but obviously it didn't happen. But, yeah, we missed him.
Unfortunately, guys, you can't keep everybody,
Yeah, not for $22 million like Leo.
Yeah, I saw a tweet where, someone put down that if the Giants had kept Leo, McKinney, Barkley, and somebody else they mentioned, who was that fourth person they mentioned? They'd be in better place now. But how much money would that have been? Would the Giants have had that in their cap space? Yeah. And
see, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, and this is based on not giving Jones that contract.
Right.
So who was going to be the quarterback?
Sure.
I don't know.
Jordan Phillips wasn't really the answer because he's just hasn't performed. But A'Shawn Robinson, like we mentioned before, did a good job last year. But I think just a big run stuffer in the middle to help Dex out in this running game. I just feel like they're just getting pushed around. And maybe Chapman, develops and could be that guy next to Dex a little more.
Well, he's not that big guy that we think about. He's more like he's a size more like Aaron Donald was, 6'1".
But he's strong.
Right?
But
he is very.
I know he pushes guys. Supposedly the strongest guy in the team. So and he's got the leverage already, being short. So
yep. So I think with this team, you're going to see a lot of paper cuts, meaning that short gains. Hopefully, teams will try to go long. I don't know if they'll be successful at it. And this game could boil down again. And this is so boring to talk about. Could boil down to a field goal. It could.
Yeah. It could, and it probably will. Let me ask you this, Mike. Would you rather lose by 3 or by 10? Personally, I'd rather lose by 10. I can't take these last-second field goals.
I tell you what, I don't want to lose by 3 minutes the last play of the game,
No,
like last
no.
week.
Well,
That
definitely
is that is so annoying because you can't do anything. You have no chance to come. You can't. Here's your chance. Try to come back. You know.
Yeah.
Listen, guys. Giants could have won that game.
Oh,
They would have played much better defensively between the 20s.
yep.
They could have won that game if they
Yeah.
would have. If they would maybe a healthy kicker.
Yeah.
They could have won that game instead of trying to going for it all the time. Those misfield.
And I will say they got lucky too because Washington had like 7 penalties inside the red zone that backed them up too. So that did help as well.
Yeah.
That helped
Yeah.
because they were on their way maybe to get 1 score in there. But yeah, the missed opportunities. Forget the kicker. We don't have to go over, but we Singletary Neighbors. Yeah, man, we know it was tough.
Yeah. So I mean. I think it's about the same score we're going to see last week, something like that. Anybody else can chime in what they think.
Yeah, well, there's Jay Ferries. He would say I'd rather lose like in a millisecond than that slow motion 3 to 5 yard grind, no stop. Well, it's funny that 3 to 5 yard grind down the field with the last second field goal. That hurts. That hurts. Okay, Mike, you have more on your on the list here.
No, I think. Look, I think it's a toss up. If the Giants lose, would that shock me? No.
Yeah.
If the Giants won, would it shock me? I wouldn't say yes, but I would be
pleasantly surprised.
Yes.
I have guarded optimism. I don't know if they're going to win, but I think they're going to show up. I'm hoping Bowen puts something together to stop this gashing up the middle, but. Look at Jay Ferry.
They gotta get their fruit. The Giants gotta play better defensively. They gotta
get off the third down.
Yeah, they gotta force Watson into making a pass, quicker than he wants to, or before he makes his progression reads, and they gotta make him think and let him feel the pressure coming in on him. They don't. Any quarterback's gonna look like an all-pro if he has time to throw the football.
Yeah, the consensus, and listening to like I said, the Browns media people, and it just sounds like they're very confident Sunday. And
we were.
yeah, but very much so where Njoku, why have him set back? He's going to sit out. Like, why Russ Conklin and Willis, even though they're practicing, maybe give them another week. I feel like this could definitely work in the Giants' favor that they come out. But once again, they got to hit him in the mouth early, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Scored early, set the tone. And put him in a little bit of a tailspin because I get the feeling Cleveland's not looking at this game, A
lot of times you asked me, I know you've done this before. If they coin flip, what should they do? And a lot of times I say defense, so they set the tone, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. But if the Giants win the coin flip, I want them to get the ball. I want them to move the ball down the field, down their throats, and score. That's what I want to see them do.
Right.
That's what I want to see them do.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't bother me if Dable goes for it on 4th and 1 when he's close. Go for it. You got nothing to lose. Go for it.
Yeah, depending on the situation, momentum. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the road. You're on the road. I would say late in the game. I don't want it to go to overtime, right? I want to get go for the win, like reminiscent from Tennessee a couple of years ago.
Yep.
All right, Mike.
Nothing to lose.
Except the season. Yeah, except the game. They can't get the 0-3. 0-3. Oh my goodness. We're gonna start hearing the coaches, the GM. It depends on how
Chris, I think if Dable shows more, like opens up the playbook more, and Giants show more in their game, in their plays than what we've been seeing, and they lose by a close game, I think fans will be upset, but I think they'll be a little more respectful, saying, look, at least they did this, they tried this. I know I would be.
Yep.
I don't want them seeing playing safe and being afraid to lose. I want to see them go out there and try to win.
Right. Mike, let me ask you a question, those of you out here, and then we're going to wrap it up. I don't know why I keep thinking of this. When you saw Dable the first year, he had fire. He had more I know he's had to tone it down because he got crazy last year in the locker room, behind the scenes, but even on the sideline, I feel like he's calmed down almost too much. Like he's almost been neutered. I feel like Dable. Even the post game,
He has been walking funny here.
I feel like not as like he's already, not that he's checked out, but I don't see the same guy that I saw 2 years ago. Do you feel that way? That he's just different? I know he's lost weight, but I don't. It just appears different at the post game. Like, yeah, they got to work
like
things
he's
out.
Afraid to lose his job, right?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I do feel that. Not that maybe the fire. I don't even want to say the fire, but intensity. It's just something a little different about him that we loved a couple years ago. I don't know. Is it wearing on him at this point? Going through this, maybe I don't know.
No, I did. And
did he want the quarterback that bad, and this is now pissing him off because he can't take it anymore? He just seems different.
It's funny. Real Cole just had a comment up here.
Yeah.
Second from the
Cole sees it.
I think I saw him on that commercial.
Thank you.
I think I saw him on that commercial in the background dancing. I think I did.
What do you mean?
I think I saw him.
Who?
Dable.
Background of what commercial?
Ozempic. Yeah, I could have sworn I saw him dancing.
More aggressive. You might be right, Jay. Angry heavy man. That is true. It's very intimidating. Oh, you guys. See, yeah, except this is funny. All right. Well, maybe I'm not the only one. Oh my gosh, this is too funny, man. Post show in case you need something else to watch. Insiders. Yes, we're gonna go. All right. Yeah. Listen, those guys do a great job. We're gonna end this so you guys can get over there. We love Jerry and Chris. Want to get Chris on at some point and Jerry maybe together. Great stuff. I'll be heading over there, and I know they have it. The next day you can watch it as well. But anything else you want to give us a score?
I think it's going to be another close game like that.
Okay.
21-18, 20-20, 21-17, something like that.
Who wins?
Pick them.
Oh, right. Come on, give us. Come on. Who do you think, Mike? What you got telling you on Thursday?
Listen, I'm a Giants fan. I want the Giants to win, but I don't know if they can rebound from this. I don't know. I want them to win. I'll say the Giants because I got to pick somebody. But it wouldn't shock me if they're the one that lose by 3.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but when you least expect it, the Giants do something out of the ordinary, and I feel like Sunday is going to be the day. If they lose, I'll never pick them the rest of the year. I say
baloney.
You will pick them. Well, again. I definitely won't pick them against Dallas and Seattle if they lose. That's for sure.
No,
I'm going to go Giants. I'm going to go Giants 26, which is a weird score in itself. Giants 26, Browns 23. Browns drive late, held them, and they can't kick the field goal.
Wow, all right. Giants
26-23, Giants
high, 26 points. Okay.
Yep, and then Dallas comes in next week, and reality sets back in because Dallas is all pissed off and ready to lay the hammer on the Giants again, the whipping boys. But we'll see. But anyway, that's what I'm going with. We'll see. I'm going with you, Jay. 26-23, I'm going with a Giants win. But
okay.
Bullish. Yeah, that's right, Jay. Yeah, bullish or either bullish or bullshit. We'll see what happens. All right. Listen, guys, can't thank you. Mike, anything else you want to say before we sign off? I don't want to give you the floor. No,
I'm good.
All right. We can't thank you enough, everybody, for joining us on Rush Hour every week during the season. Check us out, NY Giants Rush on Monday with Craig and the crew. Sean, Spartan Mike, or we have to fill in. But, 8 o'clock on Mondays. We're at 7 on usually Wednesdays. So thanks again for stopping in, and have a great weekend, and go Giants. Let's get a win. See you guys.